follow your lead.
Well, what you see is that this is
Recording in
actually a
progress.
Lonely Hearts podcast, and we have callers come in and we give them relationship advice.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, we can give relationship advice. Hey,
None of it's good.
Welcome to the Lovecraft Using podcast, where we give relationship advice, talk about cosmic horror, weird fiction, vampires in New England, all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, let's do introductions and then let's chat. I'm Mike Davis, Lovecraft Easing chief cook and bottle washer, I guess. DeBronzo, you want to go?
Sure. Mike DeBronzo, artist, architect. And I have a shameless plug because I will be on podcast, the Amityville Horror Picture Show, which is, if you follow Strange Eon's podcast with Kelly, Vanessa, and Eric, is an offshoot of that, where they're covering every Amityville movie from start to whatever the most recent one. And it's over 50 now. So cool. I will be on that. We're going to record this week, but I do not know when it's going to air. Could air soon, could air later. But keep an eye out.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question, Mike?
Yeah.
Why?
Matt, have you seen some of my recommendations to you? Yeah. Have you actually watched them? I mean, it's bad movies, and I get to talk about them. I mean,
hey, quick tech question: when I talk, do I flash on the screen for you guys?
I can't see it. I have to stand up.
No, can you see me when I?
Oh,
I got it.
Yes or no?
You're on the screen now. You're
okay. You look like you got a halo.
Well, yeah, of course I do.
We know better.
Okay, so what's the offshoot? It's an offshoot of Strange Eon's Radio, and it's called what?
The Amityville Horror Picture Show.
Wow. Why are you doing this to yourself?
Oh, come on. I get to hang out with Kelly and Eric, talk movies.
Well,
I love bad movies.
That too, but all those movies. Wow.
You'll just have to tune in to find out.
Okay. All right. Rick?
Rick Lay, writer, and in an alternate reality, I was killed by spiders controlled by Kelly Young.
Yep. Kelly Young's book should be out in a couple months, so even more people will be able to watch you die.
The book's name is The Secret Language of Spiders.
Yep. Secret Language of Spiders. Pete?
Pete Rollick, writer, editor, and in an alternate reality, I too have been killed by spiders.
An alternate reality.
By the way, you can check out Rick Lay books by going to ricklay.com, L-A-I. Same thing with Pete, PeteRollick.com. I've got that set to your Amazon page, I believe, Pete.
So, that's the only place it should go.
That's what I figured. Bridget.
Hello, Bridget Brenmark, musician, composer, artist, usually scribbling or painting or, making up ditties over here.
There was an interesting pause there. It's like artist usually.
Yeah. Matt.
Hi, Matt Carpenter here. So I do a couple things around here. I run movie night, but I've been in transit. So yesterday and next Saturday, we're not having movie night, but the first Saturday after Easter, we are going to resume with Late Night with the Devil. All you have to do is watch for posts on Facebook about it. I have a prize today.
Yeah. Group.
It's 2 paperbacks that I found on my shelf that I don't really want anymore. One is Lair of Ancient Dreams by
Asa Drake.
Asa Drake, and this is Witch Hill by Marion Zimmer Bradley.
Does anyone want that one?
They're getting it. The thing is, when you read about Marion Zimmer Bradley, and I don't know anything about this, I was never really a fan of her work. I don't even know if I've ever finished this book. I mean, that just, but
you're really selling it.
Well, it's set in Arkham, and it ended up on my shelf, and I'm under instructions. I need to be downsizing, which I sort of am, although I'm sort of sneaking in a few books for the ones that I get rid of. So it works out. Anyway, apparently she was involved in child abuse with her husband in a rather severe way, and this is terrible. On the other hand, Lovecraft was a flaming racist. It's just, the thing is, he's not making money off of his works, and he doesn't have any estate, and we freely acknowledge it and talk about it openly. So it's not like we're supporting that aspect of his character. And regarding this, there are mentions of Lovecraftian settings. Whether it's Lovecraftian at all, you could argue, but what I would say is she's not going to make any money off of this book. So if you're curious about it, you can read it, and if not, you don't have to. But that's, I guess, the way that I would phrase this. I don't know if anyone else would be of a different opinion, but I'm not going to burn this book.
Yeah, and I think I have the right to speak on this more than a lot of people. But on the child abuse versus Lovecraft thing, obviously both, it goes without saying, and I'll say it anyway, are extremely horrible. Having been a victim of child abuse, I can tell you though, if you want to compare those two, Lovecraft, obviously a racist, but what he did was write about it, with his friends. There's no record of him, actually doing racist things. Now that's bad enough. That's horrible. But the difference, one key difference is that Bradley actually, hurt people, abused people. So anyway, that's my thinking on it.
I guess my thought is, I don't. One time, I actually got rid of a book, and I felt bad about it ever since. Whether her work needs to be extirpated is a judgment that would be made way over my head.
Yeah, and I would just say that if anyone, you can comment on YouTube if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. I've got an open mind, and above all, I don't condone either one, racism or child abuse, but a little bit different.
No. The point wasn't even to compare the two. I'm sorry, Mike. The point wasn't to compare the two behaviors, render them equivalent. It's just my approach to an author with a problematic past. And you can always choose. My view is like, you're never wrong to choose not to read the work.
Absolutely.
If it's really bothering you that HPL is a racist, and you say, I'm not going to pick up any of his books, I'll have to say, well, I agree that's your right. And the idea hurts you. Okay, I respect your decision. And the same with this. But I got to tell you, it's like, this gets back to Brian McNaughton. He wrote pornography, and he wrote it under several different pseudonyms to try and make a buck. And he wrote this book under a pseudonym. I think it was it Mike Slade, something like that.
I'm glad we're diving into the deep issues right here at the beginning.
Well, here's the thing. He wrote this book called Bad Penny. Okay. And because some of his porno books were actually Lovecraftian with other crap tacked on, I got it. And it turns out, no, it's just like one of those yellow novels from the 70s or 80s. It's just with such tawdry. When you actually write it on the page and you look at it, you're kind of embarrassed to be even in the same room as the book. and I thought, I can't have this in my house. I don't like this kind of stuff. I don't support it. But I don't want to donate it to the library. I left it in a box.
Hey, did you see what Dr. Carpenter brought in? Oh, yeah.
I left
Reading is fundamental, kids.
I left it in a box on my front curb. And there, I think it may have gotten taken away with the trash, but I don't know. Someone might have come and picked it up. Of course, then I told Pete and Joe Pulver, and they said, you know how much those books are worth?
You
And
should have
but
sent them to
like,
Pete. That's the thing to do. Always send them to Pete.
but the thing
Yeah.
was, I could not, even with this book that I really didn't like and didn't want in my house even, I couldn't bring myself to just put it in the trash.
No, yeah, I get it.
I'm just
Before we need to finish introductions with Cody, but last thing I'll say before we move on and, you know, beat this dead horse some more. Newcomers might ask me why the name of this is the Lovecraft Easing podcast. Well, Lovecraft Easing, because that's how all of this started, and the magazine is still free to read online. Hundreds of quality stories at lovecrafteasing.com. Lovecraft, which, you know, I've never really been too interested in Lovecraft the man, but, you know, Lovecraft or Lovecraftian to me it's a shortcut for a type of horror. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's easier than saying, you know, the Cosmic Horror Online magazine, for example. Anyway, Cody Lakin is here to be a guest panelist.
And he's regretting every minute of it.
That's right. He's like, oh Christ, how soon can I back out of this without being rude? Hey, Cody.
Excuse me. Yes.
How are you?
Hello. Glad to be here.
So what's your latest book? Tell the audience about that.
Oh, mine. It's called The Aching Plain. Very cosmic horror. It's a very sad book about grief, and a number of things. Took a lot of influence from The King in Yellow, from a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And your upcoming one?
Oh, I don't really have an upcoming one. Well, one I'm writing, but I don't know.
Okay.
Yet.
I won't make you talk about that since you're writing it. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. I just thought it'd be fun to have you on as a guest panelist if you wanted to, and it looks like you wanted to.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Matt, did you get in all your complaining about Facebook, or did you want to tell the audience about what you could not post on Facebook this week?
I don't have any delusions about my, popularity or importance, but for me, Facebook's supposed to be fun. And what I think is fun is sharing about books and movies and jokes that I like, and getting responses or not, or people sharing back at me with other things. I found out so much interesting information this way. So generally, when I'm doing my book a day posts, which is something that I've done like several times in the last few years, I shared across 8 groups. Well, recently I was traveling and I ended up in this little town called Fergus Falls in Minnesota. And I was signing in from these, I guess, weird places. And for some reason, Facebook flagged me. And now it's not permitting me to post across groups.
And you're home now and it still doesn't work.
Right. Well, what it does is, like, sometimes I can't post it all across groups. And what they're saying is, you've exceeded your number of allowed posts. We don't want anyone to be a spammer, is what they say. But
Okay.
if you've not seen my, say, I cannot add my Lovecraft reread entry this week. I have not been able to put in about what's going on with movie night for people.
Can
So
you
if
do
you've
them one
not
group
seen
at a
my,
time?
if you don't see my posts across the groups like I used to, it's because right now I'm being clobbered by Facebook, and I'm really uncertain as to why.
Well, I don't want to solve it here, but I just want to ask real quick, have you tried posting one group at a time instead of cross?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have.
All right, well, all right. So, if you're not a member of the Patreon, that's really the only reason that I can do this, that we can continue to do this. So thanks to everyone who is a Patreon. A couple of days ago, I posted Nadia Bulkin's, we do a horror review series once every month or two. And we got together and did that this past week, and I posted it a couple of days ago. And this is just $5 a month, for Patreon podcasts. And there's more at the upper levels, but you don't have to go beyond that if you don't want to. But 95% of the time, for me anyway, her horror reviews are spot on. So if you're not a Patreon, maybe, Google Lovecraft Easing Patreon, or I've got the link in the show notes, and there's some amazing material. Also, I'm about to post another in the Deep Background series that I do, which is, sort of the journey of the artist or writer or creative that I'm interviewing, how they got more about them personally, how they became the person that they are today. And I talked to Trevor Henderson this week, the Siren Head guy. So, and much more. But I think that's what, if I say Siren Head, most people will immediately know who I'm talking about. So that'll be up in a few days too on Patreon. So, did you guys see the new Beetlejuice trailer, Pete?
No, okay. So you, Mike Davis, have to make a decision.
What?
Because half the time you tell us, don't watch the trailers.
I said, don't watch the trailer on horror movies. That's not a horror movie. It's a comedy. Right?
No.
Is it really horror? Besides, it was a
Tim Burton is one of the greatest horror.
I love Tim Burton movies, but none of those movies scare me, Pete. Or make me feel creeped out. They're fun. Come on, Beetlejuice was fun. You didn't have fun watching Beetlejuice?
Yes. But okay. Never.
But You'll Never Find Me, which I'm about to watch. I've not seen the trailer for that because I know it's really good and I don't want anything to be given away.
You, Mike, you are the reason I drink.
Oh, well, I'm glad. I have a reason. I have a purpose in this world. That makes me feel great. The juice is loose, as Michael Keaton said in the trailer. So I guess Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is out now in theaters.
Yes.
I didn't realize that.
Conflicting reviews.
Really?
Yes. Some people love it, some people hate
Does
it.
anybody want to watch it even?
Well, I'll watch it when it comes streaming on, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not going to a movie theater, so just no.
But you probably would if the reviews were overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the lowest reviewed one so far. And I usually take that with a grain of salt. Like the aggregators, it all depends on your personal taste, but when there's enough of them, there's probably something to it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Matt, don't do that to my brain. I had Bridget introduce herself, right?
No, you did not. Yes, you did.
Not? Yes, I did.
Yeah, I made fun of her. Yes, I did.
That's
Yes,
how
you
you
did.
remember it. Well,
I like how you wait until I go to refill my water to be like,
yeah,
Yes.
Matt,
actually, then you care.
Matt says,
Yes,
you didn't introduce
have some.
Bridget. And I'm like, okay, I thought I did.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all saying Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is a wait till streaming. Is that what you guys are telling me?
yeah, I would. There was another trailer that came out, though, for Alien Romulus.
Yeah,
that dropped this. But who could tell?
What's the plot for Alien Romulus?
We don't know yet. The only thing I do know that one of the cast members apparently was not supposed to say, but let out in an interview that it is set between the original Alien and Aliens. It takes place about 20 years after Alien. Whether it ties to the prequels or any of that stuff, because now there's all,
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of hard to tell anymore. As far as I'm concerned, you could stop with Aliens. And maybe there's parts of Alien 3 I like. After that, it's kind of, well, that's good enough for me. So I'm hoping it's good. The guy who directed Fede Alvarez, he did Evil Dead Rise, he did another movie. Oh shoot, I can't remember it. But I think if I remember correctly, it's good. He's the one directing it. Scott's producing it. Ridley Scott. Kind of hoping he doesn't
fuck it up.
The only thing because he did his prequels that I didn't ask for.
Who said that?
So I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
DeBronzo. This is the most important question that possibly you will ever be asked.
Oh, okay.
By the way, I like the thing paperback behind you there. Yeah, that's
this right here?
Yep.
That's actually an action figure.
Oh,
that's
is
McCready.
Oh, nice.
Well, I'll do show and tell.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can do show and tell.
Here, see if you can.
Oh yeah.
The light.
There we go.
It's
That's
the
some
sombrero, the whole nine. It's really cool.
So the question is, Alien or Aliens on your rewatches? Which one do you prefer?
Oh, they're two different animals, and I love them
Yeah,
both.
why do you have to pick?
Yeah,
You
it's
don't have
to me.
pick,
It's
but he just loves that stuff so much. I just wonder which one he likes to rewatch the most.
It's really either one. Like Aliens is, it's the faster action hybrid. Like in a way, that's more the like if you're in the mood, it's more rewatchable.
Mm-hmm.
But it depends what kind of mood I am, because Alien is the haunted house in space. It's actually kind of gothic. It's not science fiction, it's a horror movie. And Aliens, you still have the horror element, but you have the colonial marines, and it's all depending where I'm at and who I'm with and what they want to watch. But I love both of them equally.
And I think without Aliens, you don't get Dog Soldiers.
No, it's an extremely influential movie. I mean, yeah, I agree with that, Pete. I don't think you do. I mean, it's just so much going on in the movie. It's done so well. I mean, I could talk ad nauseum about it if I don't want to do that to anybody. But it's just a great flick. From the special effects, the actors, the acting, it's a winner,
Yeah. I've only seen it once. I need to see it again.
There's an extended cut.
Oh.
It's extra 20 minutes, so.
So DeBronza, where do you stand on It Came Without Warning?
Oh, the Jack Palance, Martin Landau one?
Yeah.
It
to me is like a more horror B, it's a horror B movie version of Predator 20 years earlier, right?
And the funny thing is, if I'm remembering correctly, the actor that plays the alien is the one that plays the Predator.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't remember the actor's name. I don't think he's with us anymore. Originally, funny side fact, Jean-Claude Van Damme was the original Predator. Until he lied to get on the get in the movie, and he kept passing out, and he was not a stuntman. Martial arts, but a stuntman. But yeah.
Wait a minute.
What do
as
I have?
The monster or as an extra?
As the monster.
As the
monster.
Predator.
The original Predator. The monster suit did not look like the one we know and love. It looks very goofy. And at the last second, he gets fired, and it's just all hands on deck. The monster's not working, and they called Stan Winston, and he flew over and started just sketching stuff, and pretty much came up with the idea.
Hey, could you imagine if the Predator looked like that thing from, what was it, Made of the Mutilator or whatever?
The Shriek of the Mutilated?
Yeah, the sheepdog Predator.
It almost looks that bad.
The giant dog suit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The giant dog.
Google it. If you Google Van Damme and Predator, it's going to come up. He's got glasses on. He's got the suit on, but he's got the head next to him on his, like, holding it, and he looks absolutely miserable. I'm sorry, Pete. I totally forgot the original question. What about?
No. This is the question.
Okay.
Me, because I love It Came Without Warning. I think it's a great.
And yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, Cameron is the special effects coordinator for that film.
It's very possible. That's how he starts his career. He works for Roger Corman as a special effects guy.
Yeah.
Like, what's that? Battle Beyond the Stars. He did the ships and stuff.
Right.
Piranha 2.
Yes.
He did the special effects on that. The Flying Fish. And Lance Henriksen.
Yeah. All these high quality films.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but this is the thing. This is the thing I talk about with my kids. It's like you have to have B movies to train people so that they can make better movies.
Heck yeah.
And for comparison for viewers.
Yeah.
And they're still enjoyable. Fun.
Yeah, they're still fun.
Yeah, it's like we piss all over a lot of movies, but somebody went out most of the time with the intention of making a good movie. There you go. That's what it looks like.
That's great. It looks like a beetle.
Slightly different.
He looks miserable.
Yeah, there's another picture, but it's pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like that, I enjoy that movie. I don't own it, unfortunately. I would like to. I'll have to pick it up at some point.
I think you only can pick it up bootleg.
Blu-ray?
Bootleg.
Not. I
YouTube,
think
maybe.
they possibly they reprinted it at one point, but I don't know if you might be right. It might be out of print again.
Yeah.
I think it was like Shout Factory or something. But you have the funny thing is, it seems like that time period, like late 70s into the 80s, you had a lot of stars that won Oscars later that were on the downside of their career and needed to pay the rent. So you have Martin Landau,
right,
as a crazed veteran. You have Jack Palance before he was doing push-ups at the Oscars.
You had the scenery guy from that stupid show with where they were in a fort in Indian country. It was comedy.
F Troop. Larry Storch.
Larry Storch.
Agard.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like, it's a great B movie. Not great. It's a really entertaining B movie. And you know what? The alien actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, very similarly, the flying starfish, which kill you, then lead to the flying,
the glaive
in the Jeepers Creepers. Yeah. It's very similar.
Oh, that's right. It was
going to say Suicide Squad.
It was a bone star. That's what it was made out of, bone in Jeepers Creepers. I thought you were talking about Predator with he also had a kind of
but
it wasn't until the second one.
You can see the influence of that film on a lot of different things, including Predator.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just like it's us. We saw something as a kid, whether we do anything with it or whatever we wind up doing in our life, it's very influential.
Yeah.
So it's going to creep into some filmmakers where they maybe take an idea that, is okay or was a B movie, and then they move it into, they use that.
Right.
And either make something different, but the DNA is still there.
Right.
And it came from something, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, imitation, by the way, think of all the slasher movies. Not for the better, but you got Halloween coming out, and then Friday the 13th was like, well, we need another holiday. So they go that
right.
Go back and look at all the holiday themed slashers.
Oh yeah.
It's just wow.
I actually saw the movie Mother's Day.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
My older brother dragged me to it.
But what, Black Christmas has been remade like 3-4 times now?
Oh, it's been made, I think, twice. And not, or you might be 3 times. I don't know.
I think it's 3 times.
There are a lot of original horror stories out there that film Hollywood could make,
Yeah.
They're doing Black Christmas 4 times.
The original's great. It's a really effective movie, especially the first time you see it, obviously. I saw it late at night as a kid, and it was before we had the internet where you could just look up what the movie is. It's like on USA, and had no idea what it was, and just kind of like watched it with the lights out and scared the shit out of me. So
that's an interesting point, Mike. So before you had options, like if you were up late at night and you just turned on some horror movie that you didn't know anything about and you had no other options, you watched it.
Exactly.
And maybe you discovered something.
I did that as a kid. I did that constantly. I couldn't get enough of the creature features. Like Saturday was my big day.
Yeah.
And then Saturday night, you had like not USA All Night. What was it? Night Flight at that point. They showed Night of the Living Dead a lot. That's how I got introduced to that movie. But you would just see stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say the same thing with browsing movie rental places.
Yeah.
I
mean, the selection was what you had to choose from.
And it was like going to a bookstore. You would look at those spines and look at the covers. The covers, 99% were definitely better than what was inside, if it was actually inside. You spent your time at the video store.
Yeah, I missed that. Trevor and I were talking about that the other day, missing time in the video store. He also brought up, it's all the choices can be paralyzing.
Yeah.
You got all these choices. I mean, I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong.
So Matt, Mike, whoever, once my local video store, and this is years ago, filled all of their Jurassic Park video cases with Carnosaur.
That is perfect.
Like, these are two very different films.
Oh yeah. Oh, it goes back to Roger Corman now. Come on.
Yep,
All comes full circle.
There we go, Mike. We just filled 30 minutes of time.
39. Yeah, 30 minutes of time. I do appreciate you guys. This is why I pay you guys so much. So,
speaking of upcoming movies,
yes.
This
is it. You can't post on Facebook anymore, so get everything out that you need to get out.
You're free, Matt. Speak.
Yes. Unleash.
There's this movie coming out from Ireland called All You Need Is Death. And this is the interesting thing is it's about this couple. It looks like they're working for some shadowy organization, but they are going around trying to collect very rare folk songs that have never been recorded.
Ooh.
And they meet this very elderly Irish woman who tells them that they can't play it for anybody, and they promise her faithfully that they were the only ones who were going to listen to it. And so it's apparently the power that this song has is part of the allure of the movie. It looks very interesting. It's due out in a few weeks, I suppose, or it's going to start hitting the film festival circuit. I'm not sure when we'll get to see it. But when I saw it, what immediately came to mind was that Brian Hodge story, It's All the Same Road in the End, which is where there's this rural county, I forget what state. It's been a while since I read it. But these two men, their father had somehow or whatever inadvertently recorded this song of a woman singing. And apparently in this region of the country, there's a long tradition of people singing to their cattle as the herd comes home to the barn at night. And so the cows recognize the song and know it's time to come home, kind of thing. So this person has recorded a woman singing this very strange song, and it's supposedly related to this kind of music that's done to attract the livestock back to the barn.
So they sing until the cows come home, you could say.
Right. So, but the thing is, it's actually a very different kind of music than they think when they eventually are able to track it down, which took quite a bit of doing. And so I'm very interested in it because this is a kind of a song about the inherent power of music, as it were. And this isn't for necessarily a good thing. You know, we're going to uplift the masses, you know.
Yeah, what was the name again?
All You Need Is Death.
I'm intrigued. Bridget, you saw the trailer. What did you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it looked really interesting. Okay. I mean, obviously, I love something that explores music and potentially forbidden music that shouldn't be heard or is only heard by certain people and influences people a certain way. I think it'll be interesting to see how they follow that thread.
Not that it has to be, but did you guys get the sense that it was Lovecraftian? Like it opens, it's, you know, that kind of thing. It just makes me think, you know, music that you're not supposed to listen to makes me think of forbidden books that you're not supposed to read.
It's just, it's hard to say without seeing the movie, you know.
Yeah.
Could it be just a possession story? I suppose.
Well, I'm intrigued either way. Yeah, thanks for telling me about it.
But it's hard to keep...
I'm sorry, man. I was going to say it's too bad Mark's not here because a lot of his stories deal with forbidden music.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to hear his opinion. I hope he gets to watch it. We get to hear it because he does. Did you read his book, movie review of Godzilla -1? The guy can really write a movie review. So I'd be interested to hear what he has to say about it. But this idea of forbidden music, it's just, how do you forbid music? It's like Catholic Church had this piece of music from the medieval period called the Miserere by Allegri. And it was so gorgeous, it was thought this should be only reserved for performance in the chapel. Well, of course, a young kid, Mozart, goes and listens to it and transcribes it the next day, you know?
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's in circulation.
Wasn't there, wasn't like Paganini or somebody that was supposed to be like the devil's music or something like that?
Paganini. The thing is, he was a violinist in the 1830s and 40s, I think, and he ended up with tertiary syphilis. He was a violinist before he got the syphilis, but especially in the latter part of his career, he had facies or deformities of tertiary syphilis that made him look very ghastly, is what I've heard. But I also heard like he was playing in these dives and he was gambling and he ended up in jail. I don't know if this is true, but he spent all of his time when he was in jail practicing, and he had a very wide grip and flexible fingers. And because he had this time, he was basically woodshedding for days at a time, which is a term for intensive practice if you're a musician. It used to be when I was. Anyway, he got to be really virtuosic in an era before there were real violin virtuosos. So he would go into a theater and play like no one else could play, and it would drive everyone crazy. They made a movie about it called The Devil's Violinist, and they got this very famous actual violinist to play the part because nobody except someone really great has the chops for his music. Except, I forget the guy's name. He's like, the movie's called The Devil's Violinist. He, of course, is devastatingly handsome, and the women are like, Tom Jones are like throwing their undergarments at him and stuff. So probably pretty accurate.
Well, you know, I'm just wondering, did they play it backwards at all?
Well, maybe he could have, but nobody else could. It's like nowadays, it's like when
Backward masking unmasked.
If you take someone like Hilary Hahn, who's superb, but she started at a young age with appropriate training, and now his music is within reach for very well-trained violinists. But at the time, it wasn't. So people thought he must have been taught by the devil. And unless I'm getting this story wrong, Bridget might know. She did a lot of music history.
So, go ahead, Bridget. I'm sorry.
There's a Robert Bloch story called The Fiddler's Fiend, which has Paganini as a character.
Paganini?
Yeah.
Okay.
The violinist.
You mentioned Mark earlier, Stephen Mark Rainey. If you guys haven't picked it up, you should pick up Fugue Devil Resurgence. So by Stephen Mark Rainey. Yeah.
And if you don't know Mark Rainey, he writes Lovecraftian fiction, but he was in North Carolina and grew up around a lot of mountains and these small hollows and whatever. And the Fugue Devil was his creation of an entity where communication through music, or how it reached reality through music, was important to the story. So he's written a series of stories about the Fugue Devil, and they have to do, it's like, how do you write about music? Is like, some people say it's like dancing about architecture. You know, it's like, can you really translate the art to the, but it's like, if you take the music of Eric Zahn, the idea that you can have horror communicated through music was the concept of the monster here.
Yeah. Well, moving on, we talked about AI for a little bit last week, and here's a comment from Paula. These AI conversations are really important to expand our understanding and the impact of AI on artists and the reading community. I hope you have more good discussions like this. I posted a question on the Facebook Horror Writers Association asking authors to comment if they used AI virtual narration for their audiobooks, so I could get some feedback on this trend in the horror genre. I received 81 comments. 80 commenters were strongly against authors using virtual narration for audiobooks. One commenter claimed that there's a boycott on authors who use AI narration. Amazon is offering authors free AI narration in their beta virtual audiobook program titled KDP Books, KDP Audiobooks with virtual voice beta. I don't know. Yeah, AI narration, AI art.
Mhm.
Anything to get out of paying real people.
Right.
So this is right up their alley.
One of the things that was one of the patrons was talking about the other day when we were talking about this, that on the audiobook AI narrators, you can tell when they get to some word that's a place name or some kind of name that they don't know how to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah.
It's like
So,
MapQuest.
yeah, it's like I used to have well, I used to live near a place that had an A street, and every time my GPS would say turn on a street. So,
You're like, I am.
So, stuff like that. It's like, well, how do you pronounce this name or place? I mean, of course, like a human, you're still gonna have to figure those things out, like how to pronounce it properly, how did the author want it pronounced, but it's still a little bit more obvious when you hear a computer say,
Yeah.
he went to Montpellier.
The other thing is, there are some really gifted narrators out there that do different voices for different characters in the book. A couple of examples. Right now I'm listening to a Doctor Who novel audiobook. It was a novel first, they made it into an audiobook. But it's called Doctor Who Deep Time, and the narrator just does such a superb job of, first of all, he does a great Peter Capaldi, because it's the Capaldi Doctor, and he does such a great job of differentiating the voices, and the book doesn't even have to really say who's talking. I mean, it does, obviously he's reading it, but he has a different voice for every character in there. Let's see, who's that reading? Because Dan Starkey, is the reader of that particular book.
So
I'm just thinking.
I
was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The HPL. My God, HPLHS Historical Society. Andrew Lehman. It's like, imagine not having Andrew Lehman as one of the actors in one of their adaptations.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain people that are just, you love that voice, and their delivery is just, it's perfect.
Yeah.
You all know who Charlie Strauss is? He had a blog entry just recently about the Wonka experience that was such a catastrophe in Scotland. And a lot of it was due to the AI generating it. And so if you want to read a discussion that sort of dances around this thread, that would be one to go to. His blog is found on antipope.org. But at any rate, he was in computer science and computer science writing right through the initial, before the dot-com run-up. That's how long he was in the field. And he was saying that although the newspapers are referring to this as, quote, AI, it's more just like a rather fast idiot savant. I thought that was a pretty interesting description.
Go ahead, Pete.
I think everybody can see one of the examples of this. If you turn on the subtitles for some shows, sometimes you get really, really good subtitles, and sometimes you get shit. And you can tell when somebody has just basically used an AI to generate subtitles. It's awful.
It is. And another example of the subtitles is most subtitles on YouTube, as a matter of fact. The AI does a horrible job.
Also on Reels, yeah.
Here's a headline. New horror movie with 99% Rotten Tomatoes score is under fire for AI art use. Director issues statement talking about Late Night with the Devil. Has anyone besides me seen this yet?
No,
No?
it's news to me.
It's on the list for we're going to watch it for movie night, not next Saturday, but the Saturday after.
Well, the movie is doing really great, and then someone noted the AI use. Apparently, directors use AI for brief interstitials. I don't even know what that means.
Stigil?
Yeah, okay. And they've justified this by saying it's part of the film's 70s aesthetic.
Interstitial means stuffed in between.
Okay.
So like if you have two cells, there may be interstitial water between them, for example.
Well, they're using AI there in Late Night with the Devil. So, which has caused some boycotts.
What did they specifically use it for?
Just for that. I don't know. Let's see if it says.
Like transitional scenes or?
Yeah, I think.
I heard it was like some kind of background stuff. Very brief.
Yeah. Someone wrote, listen, there's AI all over this and the cutaways and the will be right back network messages. So, yeah, I mean, they didn't have to do that really. And here's their response. In conjunction with our amazing graphics and production design team, all of whom worked tirelessly to give this film the 70s aesthetic we had always imagined, we experimented with AI for 3 still images, which we edited further and ultimately appear as very brief interstitials. There's that word I can't say again. In the film. Boy, our PR person wrote this. We feel incredibly fortunate to have had such a talented and passionate cast, crew, and producing team go above and beyond to help bring this film to life. We can't wait for everyone to see it for themselves this weekend. Okay. So why don't you just use those guys? I don't know.
It's just what AI would want to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Probably because it was cheaper. Probably because everybody's trying to test the water because it's cheaper. You don't have to pay somebody. Anything that gets around and gets you more profit, people will probably go for, especially if it's movies.
But I think if even well-received movies are seeing a backlash, that's a good thing because it'll encourage filmmakers and others in the future not to use AI. And really, when you get AI art, for example, or anything, what it really is doing, it's not original. It's scraping a bunch of images and other, from the internet. It's building on the work of humans is what it's doing.
Yeah, Langan just did a
mix
post
and
that
match.
had like bullet points of what AI art really is. And that was one of them. It's basically stealing from other sources without giving them credit or referencing them or anything. It's just, I'm taking what you did and using it for my own purpose. So,
I'll have to look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, he posted it. It's like, I think 10 bullet points of what describing it. Because I definitely don't support it at all. It's just, like I said, you're stealing from somebody who actually did it, whether it's music, it's visual, whatever. They're not getting credit for it. They're just,
right.
Speaking
of Doctor Who Deep Time, I'm about 60% through it, and it seems like it's leaning in a Lovecraftian direction so far. I'll have to see how it ends, but I'm really enjoying the audiobook version a lot, which then makes me think, who do you guys think are the most Lovecraftian creatures or monsters in the Doctor Who universe? I say the Midnight one is one of them. What do you guys think, Pete?
There was that couple of novels which they try to make all monsters on Doctor Who Cthulhu Mythos enemies.
Yes. I think it was All Consuming Fire.
Yeah.
It was what?
A novel called All Consuming Fire, which
right.
links up all the Doctor Who monsters with various Lovecraftian creatures. I think the Great Intelligence is supposed to be Yog-Sothoth.
Yeah, the one was the Yeti.
Yeah. Then
Yeah,
Shub-Niggurath.
Ian McKellen.
Yep.
Played in the snow episode.
And then the Nestine Intelligence is supposed to be Shub-Niggurath.
And that may be true.
With the plastic people.
Yeah, it's
And-
the first third Doctor.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Story.
The Utans?
Yeah,
Well,
actually, yeah.
The Utans.
So it's basically matching up Lovecraftian creature or Doctor Who monsters with Lovecraftian monsters or gods.
It
Right?
matched up Haster with Fenrig,
Fenrig?
which is named after the wolf in
Fenris?
mythology.
Okay.
It was the one which had vampires from the future.
Yeah, so there's that. There's the Silence,
Right.
which are kind of cool, and then the Ool?
Food.
The Ood.
Yeah, the ball
The
to
Ood.
communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just appearance, though. There's not really anything
But
Lovecraftian about it.
the devil entity in that
Yeah.
Yeah.
one that introduced the Ood.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was, in prison. It was more to Lethian.
Right.
That's third
Right.
Doctor
There's
story
a lot
that
of Lovecraft tropes there. Yeah.
the one that rips off Nigel Neal. I can't think of it right now. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
The silence, the silence makes you forget about them as soon as you're not looking at them.
Right.
But okay, guys, but who do you guys think the most Lovecraftian, like you watch the episode and you're like, okay, this is cosmic horror. I would say the Midnight Entity. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Where he goes on a vacation without Donna.
Right.
I mean, she stays at the hotel or whatever. And
And he's on the boat. He's on the train.
Right.
Yeah, the bus. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I think I'm going to rewatch that one today. It's been a while. And I would also say the recent incarnation, David Tennant's second run, the Nothing from the Edge of the Universe, the Not Things.
Right.
I felt like that was one of the most cosmic horror episodes I'd ever seen in Doctor Who.
Yeah, I remember the Mars episode where he goes to Mars and it's the first Martian. He encounters the first Martian colony of humans, and then they start becoming zombies, Martian zombies.
Yeah,
I felt that
it's a good one.
Yeah, I thought it was a good one, and I thought it owed a lot to like Clark Ashton Smith. And in terms of like he did a lot of Mars stories, in that vein. So,
yeah. Any others? To me, the Not Things and the Midnight was, and yeah, Rick's point about it's more Delurthian, but the creature that was chained in the pit. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
There was also Sutek. It's another name for the god Set in the Pyramid of Mars.
Yes.
Pyramid of Mars.
Pyramid of Mars.
And then there's one, and I think it's a Tom Baker or Pertwee series. I can remember the image. It's sort of like this giant lichen vegetable thing exploding out of a house.
Seeds of Death.
Seeds of Death.
There's two that are very similar titled, but it's something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about a giant plant monster.
Which merges with the human being. It's almost a little like Creeping Unknown.
Right.
Seeds of Doom.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Anyway, yeah, it again, I think very similar to a Clark Ashton Smith story, The Seeds from the Sepulchre.
Yeah, it starts in Antarctica, doesn't it?
I think
Yes.
so.
They find a seed pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the.
Which you could.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, what about the Zygons? Like Terror of the Zygons. They always felt like a Lovecraftian race to a certain
Oh, just
extent.
because they look like a big tentacle.
No,
Oh,
I
they look
guess
like
I would
something
have
else.
to. I'd have to respectfully disagree. You know, a cosmic horror being, you don't really understand its motives, you know, and what it wants, why it's here, anything. And that's why the midnight creature and the nothings appeal to me as cosmic horror. And also, I saw a conversation online that whatever it was in Listen, I don't know about that, but I can see their point a little bit because it's never explained. What do you guys think?
Sarah Jane Smith's Adventures.
Yeah.
There's a creature. It reminded me of Nyarlathotep. I can't remember what he's called, but he's like a faceless being, except he has teeth.
Mm.
And he wears a hooded cape.
Mm.
He's got some name like the Trickster or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. And I always forget the name of this episode, but the one where Dr. Capaldi's doctor and Clara happen upon this station that's orbiting Neptune. Does that ring a bell? And anyone who watches it,
Oh, is that the Sandman episode? The Sandman. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not called the Sandman though.
No, but it has to do with sand in your eye. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of it. Anyway. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Speaking of Lovecraftian, there's a new Lovecraftian Batman series, DeBronzo.
You sent me that. Yeah. It's you
Batman
know more
City
about
of
than me.
Madness. Batman City of Madness.
And the premise is it's below Gotham?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the deal?
Yeah, and there's this creature that they've had this door sealed shut for 100 years, I guess. I'm on the first issue now.
Okay.
But this headline from, DC.com. Batman City of Madness is a horror tour de force. But I am enjoying it so far.
I've read.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's part of what you sent me, but it involves Court of Owls too, right?
It does.
Aren't they guarding a doorway or something like that? That's been their secret.
Yep. And I think it's like a dark mirror of Gotham. If any city does not need a dark mirror, it's probably Gotham. But here's one of the panels, and I'm not saying it's Lovecraftian because this entity has apparently tentacles coming out of its face. So, but we'll see where it goes. Interestingly, I was given Ultra as a gift, DC Infinite Ultra, and I looked up the cost, and I think it's basically the same as the other DC Infinite cost, except you're paying once a year instead.
Really?
Yeah, you might want to compare the pricing.
I think I will.
There's a lot of Ultra ones that I know you'd enjoy reading.
Yeah, because when you sent me that, I started looking on DC Infinite. And I was like, I haven't been on there a while, and I started seeing different stuff and saved it to my list. And I'm like, Ultra. All of them I can't read because they're on Ultra. So I'll
check out the price and let me know. I seem to remember that. In a Violent Nature is a new horror film receiving praise for flipping the slasher genre, flipping off the slasher genre, by telling the story from the killer's perspective. It has a 93% score on Rotten Tomatoes. and is
Oh, yeah.
described as a fascinating art house horror experiment.
I
Henry.
read something like on Bloody Disgusting. It's from his point of view. It described as even some of it is just him going through, like, say, the woods, like what happens in between those attacks. It's like a day in the life type thing.
Yeah.
It actually sounds very interesting.
I saw that one at Sundance Film Festival.
Oh, you did?
Huh?
How was it?
What'd you think?
It was really cool. It was there is a lot of the in between of like the walking the killer, the like tracking shot behind him, which felt like an instant potentially iconic type of thing.
Yeah.
Whenever the movie is not from his point of view and it's focused on the other actors, the acting's not so good and the writing's a little iffy. But thankfully, most of it is the killer, and it was a good movie. It was very satisfying. There was a particularly brutal kill that the whole audience was just. I mean, we were laughing because it was so horrific.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Here's a movie that I want to see: stop motion. Have you guys heard about this one?
30 years in the making.
Sorry?
How long? A long time in the making.
No, it's called stop motion.
I know. I think it's been like 30 years in the making.
Oh, okay. Really?
I think Jeffrey Thomas just posted about this on Facebook. He seemed to really enjoy it. I could be wrong. Somebody did.
Looks like a John Padgett film to me. But anyway, it looks really interesting. Audience review. I accidentally stumbled upon this through my cinema friends. I was stunned by this mechanism and stunningly impactful movie. The director brought about bringing literal meat puppets to life. I don't know what this guy's talking about. Such a good movie. The tension was kept so well. I felt like the last hour I was literally holding my breath. Special effects were done really well too. I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch this. I think this is already out on streaming.
You can rent it.
It is $6.99 on Amazon Prime. Huh. Okay. So, what else? Eczema is another one I wanted to talk about. Has anyone seen this yet? It's coming from South Korea, I think.
Not ringing a bell.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll watch that one and then we'll comment on it. So, sequels like They Follow. Now, there's one. I hope they don't muck this up. Sequel to It Follows.
Oh yeah, that news broke a while ago, right? They were thinking about doing a sequel. Are they definitely doing a sequel now?
Looks like they're. Oh yeah, it's okay. It Follows sequel. They Follow to reunite star Micah Monroe, director David Robert Mitchell for Neon. Okay, well there you go.
Well, I guess the plan didn't work.
What plan?
The end of the movie.
Yeah,
the movie.
I guess not.
I don't know if I want a sequel to that. It just kind of ends just right.
Yeah, it does.
Who knows? Because it leaves you wondering, especially without giving any of that last image. When you notice something, you're like, "Oh, could be. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not." So I don't know. Guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we will. Best horror movies. What's the best horror movie you guys have seen this year? That came out this year, or last year, I guess. I'm looking at a list, and they mentioned Late Night with the Devil, Stop Motion, Out of Darkness, which I completely disagree with.
I have yet to see it. It's on my list.
Keep going.
Yeah, don't bother. Keep going.
What else?
What else? Something called Double Blind with 100% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Have not heard of it.
When an experimental drug trial goes horribly wrong, 7 young test subjects, after being kept awake for days, must face the terrifying side effect of the drug. If you fall asleep, you die. I think I've heard of this before.
So the thing about this is like a lot of these movies
Nightmare.
are even like in a genre, a subgenre I wouldn't watch. I don't really like slasher movies or really gory movies or body horror. They've no appeal to me. But so
Neither do I.
we just watched Monolith on Easy Movie Night a few weeks ago. And I think that's a really well-made, disturbing movie about what it essentially. I don't even want to say anything because if you haven't seen it, I'd really rather talk to you about it once you've seen it.
I've seen it. It's like I'm a little different. I won't give anything away about. I thought it started off really strong, and I loved the premise. At the end, I thought it was a little maybe too ambiguous. I don't know. It's something I'd love to talk about at some point. See what you think.
Well, maybe we could do a spoiler-filled show where we talk about that one and Lovely, Dark, and Deep.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind talking about that either because I kind of had the same feelings about that one. It's like,
yeah,
in the beginning, I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be great. And then there was, well, you know what? I'll save it. If we talk about it, I'll discuss it then.
So in terms of other new movies that were released this past 2 years, the only other one I really kind of enjoyed was No One Will Save You.
That was really good.
Unless The Long Walk Home came out in 23, but it might have been 22.
That's okay. Close enough.
I would say, for me, History of the Occult really was.
History of the Occult, yeah.
I really liked that one.
Yeah, that's 4 right there. Those are 4. That's a list of 4 or 5 really good movies. Well, depending on who you ask. You don't like the second part of a couple of them might.
Well, Bridget or Pete or someone might have a different one they want to add to the list. But I just don't see that many horror movies like that. Brand new.
Like one that would be divisive is where, what do you call it? Where Evil Lurks. That was the one, Mike, that I told you watch it. Then I was like, there's going to be parts of this you're not going to enjoy.
I think you and Kelly told me not to watch it, so I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, with that said, I mean, there's some very uncomfortable parts of that movie, but I thought that was really good. It just, I would definitely not recommend that to everybody, you know?
Yeah, fair. I mean, there are great movies out there that some of us just would never watch.
Yeah.
For various reasons.
Yeah, it's a matter of like in this past year, it's because I see so few new movies. You know, Godzilla -1, is that a horror movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
I would say that is a horror movie. That is a horror movie.
When I think of it, I don't think of it. I think of it as a Godzilla movie. You know what I mean?
Yes.
For the first time, it matters. The stakes matter. You know, more than they ever have before.
Yeah, you care so much about the people that you really don't want them to die, and makes Godzilla so scary.
Yeah, Bridget, were you going to say something?
About 5 times ago, but
oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I try to point to everybody, but go ahead.
No, it's all right. No, I was just gonna say that it's only March, so to say like the best movie we've seen this year, it's like if you're looking at horror movies that have made this year, you know, which of the 5 that have come out since January, I don't know. But no, I agree with DeBronzo that Where Evil Lurks was it was disturbing to watch, but it really embraced its mythology from the beginning, and there wasn't a lot of hemming and hawing like, oh, could this be real, or you're just making this up. There was literally no gaslighting. Everybody in the movie believed that this was a thing.
Really? Yeah, that's refreshing.
It's like
that made it really interesting.
Yeah, in that version of reality, it was just accepted. And you find out early in the movie, and you're like, wait a minute, are they on the same page? Like, there's no like, you're not going to believe this. It's like, oh no, this is just the way it is.
No, like they went and told somebody about what had happened, and they were like, all right, let's get after it. Like immediately they believed them, and that was really interesting. That's cool. Totally horrifying, but it definitely took you into like a fantasy world of like a different reality where these things happen from the beginning. You believe they happen, so it's more like, how are they going to solve the problem? And that was that was a really cool take that I appreciated.
And there's a couple parts in that movie where it's legitimately shocking. Like, oh fuck, you went there.
Oh yeah,
I
very.
know my jaw hit the floor, and I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty extreme.
I mean, there's like not even like schlock gross, but just gross.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. It was, yeah, there were some moments. I mean,
these will be the parts, Mike, that you would not like.
mhm.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, let me ask you this, Bridget. What are some movies that you've seen, like say the last anytime recently? It doesn't matter when it was made, that you've enjoyed horror movies.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass because
Okay.
I have not watched a whole lot, honestly. I've been audiobooking on my commute and I have not watched a lot of movies recently, so I'm sorry.
Oh no, you getting a lot of
I
audiobooks
just
in?
literally, like, as far as horror book movies go, like that's probably one of the main ones that sticks out, as one I've already mentioned. So I don't really have anything else to add. I'm sorry.
Well, it's nice that I mean, commutes are not fun, but it's nice that you can get some book reading done during the commute.
Yes.
What have you been reading on your commutes?
I've honestly been listening to podcasts more lately. So I started listening to the Magnus Archives, which I'm way behind the power curve, but I'm on episode 2 and I really liked episode 2. Kind of cool little paranormal nugget stories.
Is it kind of like Archive 81?
Not exactly, but it's more that they created this premise so that they could tell little short stories.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. But the premise is kind of like a British X-Files. So they have like the archives, and there's a guy that's narrating the different case studies or statements that are sitting in the archives, and of course are kind of like firsthand paranormal experiences. So
are they all then pretty much self-contained?
I mean, I'm only on episode 2, but so far, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting so far, and they are kind of related because it's paranormal, so they're just kind of weird horror things, but it's kind of nice because they're only about 20 or so minutes, and so it's just kind of little cool little horror nuggets to enjoy.
Okay, that's good to know. I was under the impression that was an Archive 81 thing, but it's more just it almost sounds like a little bit of Twilight Zone framing.
Yeah, it's kind of it's more of an anthology type thing so far, but I don't know, maybe as I get more into it, there'll be some kind of overarching story or thread as well, but as of right now, it's just little nuggets.
Well, why don't we all see Lovely, Dark, and Deep and Monolith sometime soon, for those who haven't seen those two, and talk about those with spoilers. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Let's see. Mono.
Have any of you guys seen Cold Meat? It's a horrible name, but it's a good movie. It's on Apple Plus, I think. Or you could rent it, but they're Cold Meat.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, what's it about?
The thing is, I'll read you the description. That's on Amazon. It says, while passing through the Colorado Rockies, David stops for a meal at a diner and ends up heroically saving a young waitress from her violent ex-husband. He hits the road again amid a dangerous blizzard, and one false move sends him into a ravine in the eye of the storm. Slowly running out of resources, it's hard to tell what will get him first, the cold or the beast that's prowling outside. It kind of sets, like, if you watch the trailer, it looks like there's more of a certain element of the movie, that beast in particular, like that's the major drive of the movie. But it's a part of it, and it's in spite of that, where it seems like it's misleading once you get there, it's a good movie. It's kind of hard to describe without spoiling. I would say if it's one of those things, like if you rent it on Amazon, it's like $7. I would say if it's included with Apple Plus or comes down, rent it and give it a chance. For $8, you may be disappointed because you're expecting one thing because even the voiceover in the beginning sets it up. And yeah, it would, yeah, never mind. It's just like, if you get it, I hate when I do this, but if you get a chance and you can do it with either being included with your streaming or for a lower rental, definitely check it out.
Okay. I remember that.
I recommended it to Kelly and he wasn't sure about it and he liked it except for like one or two things. It's not a perfect movie, but it is very good. And it basically comes down to two actors. And during a snowstorm in the wilderness, and it goes places that are very interesting.
Yeah. Well, books, what have you guys been reading lately? I've been reading, like I said, Doctor Who Deep Time. I re-listened to Stephen King's That's a fun little listen. That's the one about the Kindle, like in like 2009, 2010, something like that. You haven't read that? DeBronzo?
No, actually I haven't.
Wow.
Is my nose bleeding? Is it? I'm sorry, I'm reading the side chat. I have not read that. No, I haven't.
Maybe your brains are leaking out.
It's what little there is. It could. I can't afford to lose
it.
The
light was hitting it. It looks like you were bleeding out. I don't know.
No, I think I'm good.
I don't think I've ever heard of this book, Mike.
You've never heard of It's spelled U-R.
Was that in The Bizarre Bad Dreams? The collection? Am I thinking of something else?
I don't know, but you can listen. I know that you can listen to it as a single on Audible. Well, actually, you can buy it as a single. But no, it's not. I don't think it's included in anything. Or it may be, but you can still just get it. It's like just a couple bucks, like $4 or $5. But it's a novella, Matt. It's about this guy who, in the early Kindle days, or 2009, he orders a Kindle from Amazon, and at that time they're all white, but he gets a pink one. And mayhem. It's actually really good.
Pink is the new black.
Right.
Okay.
Something like that.
The title refers to UR for Universal Reader.
Oh, geez. I was thinking of the mythical continent like Mu or Hyboria or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking of MU.
Is it the story where it's like on this Kindle he can read books from other like dimensions?
Right. He's looking and he sees these books by Hemingway, and there's like a million different parallel realities. It ties into the Dark Tower a little bit, actually more than a little bit. Yeah, that's the one. And then, well, I don't want to give it all away, but it's a good read, Matt. If you've not read it yet, you should.
I think you can read newspapers as well. Yeah, but I don't want to give too much away about it. But yeah. So, all right. My brain is just really not working today. Anyone got anything else they want to talk about?
Well, yeah, just looking ahead, we're not too far from it. Is anybody going to be able to make it to Necronomicon this year?
Yeah.
Yes. Although I have to book a room someplace.
Yes.
Well, I still haven't done that either, I don't think.
I booked a room and I haven't bought my tickets yet. Just did things fully backwards.
And I think Mark said last week he's going too, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that is backwards, because you want to get a room, get that nailed
like
down.
a year in advance or whatever, and then the tickets come on. I haven't gotten them yet, but yeah, definitely planned.
They haven't announced guests yet, except in the art section they mentioned that is it Sergio Caruso is the artist guest of honor.
Is it Santiago?
Santiago, yes, Caruso.
It's great.
Yeah, he did Langan's cover for a few things,
and
a Ramsey Campbell cover. So,
like Corpse Mouth, was he that artist?
No, I think it's the other collection.
Safaria? Oh, okay.
Nope, the other one.
You want me to keep asking until you just know? Yeah, that's it.
He also did the cover for Pugmire and Enoch Coffin, the Pugmire book.
Oh, with Jeff Thomas.
Jeff Thomas, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right, but yeah, I plan on going. Looks like most of us plan on going. Cody, are you going? Did you say?
No, not that I've not looked into it. I'm going to the StokerCon.
Which is it? Niagara Falls.
Niagara, San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. Oh no, World Fantasy is in Niagara Falls. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I don't get a lot of cons over here on the West Coast, so I was like, they're going to San Diego. I have to go to that.
So every year up in Seattle they have the HPL Film Festival.
Somebody just told me about that at the bookstore.
Portland, Portland, not Seattle.
Portland, Seattle. What's the difference?
Excuse me, a big difference.
Huge.
There's a lot in both places.
Are they
like about 10 degrees and about 2 months less rain?
Are they still doing the San Diego Film Festival at all, Pete? You know?
Oh, that was a one-time occurrence in 2016. Yeah. And I guess it just didn't get enough interest for them to want to continue it. It makes me worry about, are they ever going to do another one in Mobile? You know, we've not talked to Brian and Gwen about what their plans are, but I imagine that con lost money.
Oh, I'm sure it did. I talked to Gwen about it at the time, and it was discouraging. I said, you know, maybe it's just one of those things that it's going to take a few years to get traction. You know, you have to take the long view, but of course you have to be able to afford it too,
right?
To put it on, and those two work really, really hard to put on the film festivals.
Yeah, you know, and the other thing, and I had no idea, but I guess Mobile is a really small city. It's not. It's only a couple. You know, it didn't seem very large. So
maybe do it every other year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least like it's sad to say, but in say my field in medicine, if you're going to have a convention, if you're going to have it in some city that doesn't have something attractive in it to do or go to, you're going to have a real dip in attendance.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that same way for like architecture or water science or music, but like if you're having your professional meeting, there has to be something that like a little carrot to draw in the crowd.
So I'll flip it the complete other direction. A lot of science organizations that I belong to and frequent basically stopped going to Orlando because everybody was going to Orlando and just became outrageously expensive.
Oh.
So
yeah.
Well,
being able to get a cheap hotel room is good.
Right.
They were actually, you have to have the right number of hotel rooms available.
Right.
You know, the right venue space for your exhibits. You know, so for a film festival, the most important thing is to have a really good primary set of theaters, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, frankly, the way that they do it in Portland, it's like, it's great, but it's like stymieing them at the same time.
So look, I love the HP Lovecraft Film Festival. I love Portland. The problem I have with Portland is there's no hotel next to the venue.
Yeah, that's true.
Even the shitty hotel that was down the street is gone. It's closed. So
they don't have like a good venue for side stuff.
Right. So it creates other problems. One of the problems with Mobile is that I thought they had a great theater, and the hotel was like a block and a half away. That was okay. It wasn't great, but I think what stymied them a little bit was that the venue, the movie theater venue, didn't really want them there. They were like, "Okay, your movie's over. Get out as fast as possible."
Really?
And
Weird.
Wow.
so you know that natural, organic thing that happens after a movie, people get together, they congregate, they talk.
Yeah.
They were like moving people out because they wanted to close up and close the doors.
Not good customer
Almost like
service, to say the least.
almost like they don't like the movies. They don't like the movies, and they're responsible for showing movies.
I think also the movie theater is sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? It's a historic movie theater, and I think it's actually owned and operated by either a nonprofit or the city. So like
So
they're
they
not,
don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah. It'd be too expensive, but I would love to see the film festival at the Castro in San Francisco. This is one of those old timey crushed velvet seats, just very elegant. What a grand theater that is. It's like there aren't too many of those around. That's one reason they had it in San Pedro and not LA, was because of the
I just had a quick question because you guys have been to the film festival in Oregon, and it sounds like I've heard it from other places with no place to stay and all that. Have they ever considered moving the venue? Where
that'd be really hard to walk away from in that city, to walk away from that theater. It's like
it's a nice old theater.
It's okay. So it's old and it's got this sense of age, but it's perfect. It's a gorgeous place, nice spacious seats, every seat in the theater, even if you're in the upper corner, it's good. You know, two subsidiary theaters. I don't see how you replace it without just switching cities. The trick is like there is a decent hotel, the Doubletree, which is one subway stop down. It's not a problem. In the days of Uber, getting around is pretty easy. To me, it's more like, because you don't have it right there, then there's a lot less spontaneous, like, hey, let's all go grab a drink, or let's go get dinner.
Which is half the fun, at least, of a convention.
But also they don't have a place like this is where our vendors are all set up. We have plenty of space for vendors. And if you would rather, instead of seeing, what is it, St. Drogo or whatever shitty movie they were showing you, say, I want to go listen to some discussions about other movies, or when they interview this actor, there's no real good place to do that. There's a little senior citizen center, which is like a block and a half from the theater, that they used to rent out. And boy, it was a dump, but it was space. But they are not renting out that space anymore ever since the pandemic. So
it's a shame.
I don't know how we got on the convention thing, but while we're on it, I just have to point out once again that Brian Callahan, Gwen Callahan, they do a tremendous job. They're
absolutely
really fun. Absolutely, yeah.
Speaking of conventions, I'd love it if the Robert Bloch Award was given to Brian and Gwen this year.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Of course, it's a great idea.
Yeah, you had it. Yeah, thanks. Any comments on the last receivers of the award? Do you think they probably didn't deserve it?
Well, Derek Hussey's a great guy.
Yeah.
And he certainly deserved the recognition.
I'm sure he appreciates that. Okay.
Otherwise, well.
Yeah. There you go.
Just giving these things away.
I know. Just, you happen to be there and they're like, we couldn't figure out who to give it to here.
The trick is Mike was clutching his suitcase so tightly, I couldn't rifle through it to steal the trophy.
Yeah.
Filed off his name and put my own there with like Sharpie.
Yeah, that'll work. This is going to be a little bit sad, but I got to mention this, Pete. 5 years today since we lost our friend Willem.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to ever forget him or not mention him, So.
Yeah, I was just thinking about him the other day.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I don't know what to do.
There's some sort of creature behind you that, oh, they're gone. Pete.
Yeah, what was it?
What
Young or old?
I think it was young.
I think it was.
What do you mean old? You calling your wife old? Oh my God. What's Mandy? I got to email Mandy. This is unacceptable.
Older.
You know, a little slip of the tongue like that can get you the couch for a week, buddy.
Thing is, I think
No
his
count. They're just gonna smother me in my sleep.
aren't his video chats still available on YouTube?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's like because he has this very unique voice. So sometimes what I like to do is just play one of his tapes for a few minutes just to hear him talk.
Yeah, that's true. We're lucky that we have those, and Joe Pulver. Sometimes I'll play some older Lovecraft using podcast episodes on YouTube where Joe does a lot of talking, which is kind of every episode, wasn't it? And I mean that, I say that with affection. And yeah,
I was just thinking that you could use our audio recordings of Joe and Willem to just create a whole new conversation between them.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Here's what I need. To anybody out there listening, here's what I need. I need you to go through that has the time and the inclination. Go to YouTube, go to Lovecraft Easing podcast on YouTube, and click on the podcast playlist and scroll way back and pick out the best Joel Pulver conversations and send me those, and we'll make a playlist. That'd be pretty cool. So, yeah, but it's like, I know what you mean, Matt, because when I watch those, Joe's, it's not, I mean, he's right there talking. He's alive, you know, and I can pretend for a minute and I don't miss him quite as much.
So I saw something on another post on Facebook. I thought this was a great idea. There are books of letters from Lovecraft to everyone. We have books of letters from Robert E. Howard. There are books of letters from Ramsey Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, Willem was really broke for most of his life, living on the streets practically. Towards the end of his life, he moved back in with his mother because she was ill and she needed someone there full time to be able to take care of her. And suddenly, for the first time in decades, he had a roof over his head regularly. He didn't have to worry about food, power, or anything, and he had access to the internet. But before that, I guess because he was so enamored of Lovecraft, if you wrote him a letter, he would write back a lengthy letter in response. So there are letters from Willem to all sorts of people. And if someone was really enterprising, the reason I'm mentioning it, I'm not enterprising, but if someone was really enterprising, they could perhaps acquire these letters and publish them.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of, he was like, before he got on the internet and discovered everybody loved him, it was actual physical handwritten correspondence up until the 2010s, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Willem Pugmire letters floating around out there still.
Yeah, 2011, I got to know him, and I've got a lot of emails from him, but yeah, not quite the same. And that would be a hell of a.
It would not be unreasonable to, like, if some small press person would be willing to do this, someone would be willing to like take on the work.
It's a lot of work.
Like excerpts from his vlogs. He wrote lengthy reviews on Amazon.
Yeah.
About all sorts of things. You could accumulate a lot of his writings that were letters and nonfiction and opinion pieces that I think would make very interesting reading because he was a very well-read person.
And, you know, that said, interesting emails. I remember in particular, without going back and have it in front of me right now, an email from him where he says, this is about maybe 5 years before he died. I don't know how long I've got left, but, you know, I'm going to write as much as I can until then, something like that, you know. When he wasn't in one of his I'm quitting moods, Pete, right?
Yeah, I think that was just part of his process.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So he would finish up some project and he would send it off to a publisher. He's like, "That's it, I'm done. I can't write anymore."
Well, he was very dramatic.
One of Rick's favorite
One of the
things
things I love about him.
Am I right, Rick? This is every time he published a story, he'd revise it.
Yeah.
So you don't have like, if you have like, oh yeah, I got a copy of that story in this anthology. Well,
no, you don't.
A copy of that story in that anthology.
Yeah, he would sometimes like add Richard Upton Pickman from H.P. Lovecraft to a story he had previously published.
Yeah. I think one of them is like, I think that's been rewritten a couple times is Oh Christmas Tree. But yeah, I'd have to go back through it. There's a concordance someplace about what stories were modified.
I have a Centipede Press.
His first story, which has a chicken head demon in it. You can only find on YouTube, which he reads it.
I have a Centipede Press book.
It was one that it was. He admitted it was poorly written, so it was never reprinted.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. I didn't mean to interrupt
you. I think it had multiple small myocardial infarctions, and so he was developing congestive heart failure. And one of the things that goes with that is it can be profound fatigue. So in the years leading up to when he actually died, it took him longer and longer to write. He stopped going to conventions, and we were just lucky we had him on YouTube, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my prized possessions is a Centipede Press collection of his that he gave me, signed with a note to my buddy Mike. And yeah, I'm sure you got those too, Pete, Matt.
Yeah, I have a few pieces that I treasure.
Yeah.
The title of his first story was called Never Buy from a Whately.
Never buy
from a Whately.
from a Whately. Yeah.
It's set in Dunwick and involves a member of the Whately family.
Well, in fact, I think two Whately women were regular. They lived in the Susquehanna Valley, and they regularly appeared in at least the early Susquehanna Valley stories. There were two of the Whately women who they were sisters, I think, elderly sisters, and they lived in this house. And they knew Simon Gregory Williams, the mystic of the Susquehanna Valley.
And I'm glad you brought up Susquehanna Valley, because I'd like to close this up by saying, if you didn't know Willem, or obviously if you did, you've read them all or most of them. If you didn't know Willem, you're just now hearing about him. To the audience, seek out his work. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Susquehanna Valley was, well, yeah. You want to describe Susquehanna Valley, Matt or Pete, whoever?
So, there's what's called Lovecraft country, which is Arkham, Dunwich, Innsmouth, his fictional topography of New England, well informed by his personal understanding of the location. Well, the idea was that you don't just have to use Lovecraft country, you can create your own venue. And some authors took this to greater extent than other. For example, the Brychester setting of stories by Ramsey Campbell. This is all fictional, but the Severn Valley, that's where he set his stories. And Willem Pugmire created on the West Coast what's called the Susquehanna Valley. It's hard to find. And when you go there, it's hard to leave. There's this huge mountain there, which is called Mount Salta, right? Am I getting that?
Etna.
Okay, so it's basically got two horned peaks rising above it. And ultimately, if you read enough of his stories, you realize it's not that the entities are in and around here. That's the entity. And this is what is sort of influencing everything mysterious that happens in the valley. The main character is, well, it appears in most of the stories, is Simon Gregory Williams, who has silver eyes like the true denizens of the valley do, and is very much in communion with all of the creatures that live there. And he's the mystic of the valley, but he's not a benign person. And if you talk to him, you may not get anything that you like or want, or he may not interact with you in any way that you want to. So, but there were several characters, Edith Nome, I'm not going to remember all the names off the top of my head, who the Watley sisters, they all lived there, and the stories weren't necessarily about them, but these characters wove in and around the stories.
Yeah.
Perhaps better than any other fictional location, this is the one Lovecraftian setting that seems to have really worked. Now, there were different stories about, like, there were different thoughts about, can anyone else write with this setting? And Willem he had several rules that he said, if you're going to do a story, these are things that you can't do. And one is, there's a poet. You can't explain anything about this poet. And there are certain things you can't do as Simon Gregory Williams. So he did let other people write in the setting, but his muse was such a poetic kind of prose, it's kind of hard to think how you would imitate it.
Yeah, it's very poetic, and and in a different way, Joe's prose was very poetic as well, Joe Pulver. Anyway, if you haven't, to anyone listening, if you haven't read W.H. Pugmire, you should. Do an Amazon or Google search and start with one that looks interesting to you. So, all right. Well, that's all I got. That's it.
Prizes, if you want, send a.
Keeping you excited there, Pete?
Send an email to easyandprizes@gmail.com.
Yeah. What were the titles again?
And you get a prize.
What were the titles again?
Witch Hill and Lair of Ancient Dreams.
All right.
They're both Lovecraftian.
Quote unquote.
You know what? You're the guy who says that Manitou is Lovecraftian. I don't know if you get a say anymore.
Well, it was written as a Lovecraftian novel.
Yes, it was. Sure. Yep. Right.
So,
an alien.
Cody, thank you for being here, Cody. Good to see you.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, I just hadn't seen you in a little bit, so I thought I'll ask him on.
Yeah, thank you.
So, anyway, everyone, thanks for watching and or listening. Really appreciate it. Please comment on YouTube. That helps the algorithm. Reviewing on Amazon helps the podcast a lot too. And of course, the best thing you can do is join the Patreon, and you'll get a hell of a lot of extra content if you do that. Just Google Lovecraft using Patreon, or the link is in the show notes. So thanks to all of you who do. I'll have a Trevor Henderson deep background interview for you sometime this week. So
great.
Guys, thanks for being here. Good to see you guys. And everyone have a good week.